Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby, therefore, unto, on this date, February 24th, 2023, do declare my intent to run for president in 1,000,000 years. So you're saying there's a chance. Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you guys are doing good. And hopefully you have power, which I know a lot of people in the state of Michigan are still without. And I was out yesterday, but we do have power today, and we're here together. I hope we're all doing good because there's a lot of things going on right now that aren't so good in the state of Michigan and in many of these United States. And I talked about in I think it was the 5th or 6th or 7th Michigan gun control video or stream that I've done in the last week. I said, guys, look, we're in a culture war. This is about the Second Amendment. This is about the First Amendment. This is about the United States Constitution. This is about those of us who want America to be the United States of America. And quite frankly, a battle against people who do not. And want, in my opinion, to turn America into another type of country. A type of country that would be contrary to a republic. Contrary to a government that would be of the people, by the people, and for the people. And contrary to a government that would be formed for one reason, and one reason only. That it would be instituted amongst men to protect our natural rights that are endowed by our Creator. And a lot of people in a lot of these states right now, they want mob rule. They want tyranny of the majority. They look at all of these warnings, like the book 1984. They look at the tragedies and the death that were caused by Bolsheviks, the Third Reich, Stalinism, Leninism, the Cultural Revolution of Mao in China. And they don't look at that as a stark warning, although they should. It seems like they're starting to look at it as a playbook. In states like the state of Michigan and many other states, where they have the slimmest possible majority now, we're essentially a 50-50 split state in Michigan. Probably not, but with the most secure and fortified elections of all time, they barely have a slim majority. But they want to come through and rule with an iron fist. And they want it to be two wolves voting against one sheep on what's for dinner. And they want to negate the fact that that well-armed lamb could contest that vote and provide liberty. And it's literally insane right now. So I thought I'd just talk about it for a little while with you guys on here. And as always, I want you guys to participate in the chat. I always enjoy reading the replay. And those of you that are watching later, I hope you enjoy the replay. I know a lot of you listen to this as a podcast. But what is going on right now? You know, we talk about Ukraine. We talk about all of these things going on throughout the world. But what's going on here right now? Are we in a culture war? Are we in a cold civil war? And what's the solution? Is it a national divorce? Is it just banging our heads up against the wall and just remaining frustrated? I'm not quite sure, but I know for sure something's going on. And I want us all to think about it because the Second Amendment is on the line. And I always talk about how I love the whole Bill of Rights and the United States Constitution and the other founding documents, but I especially love the Second Amendment because it was put there for not if, but for when they would come for all of the rest. And then the fact that they're literally trying to destroy the Second Amendment as fast as they can on the federal level. There's like one insane gun control bill after another being proposed on the federal level. In the state of Michigan, they're at a pace of putting a gun control bill forth literally about every day. I see stuff going on brewing in Colorado right now, in Illinois right now, even Florida, while they're having a fight over so-called constitutional carry or permitless carry, they're actually looking to strengthen gun control in Florida. And I believe in all of these states. We're to the point right now where, as the left has said, remember Rahm Emanuel, right? They call him Rahm Deadfish Emanuel that worked for Obama. He said, never let a good tragedy go to waste. And it's my belief now that in all 50 of these United States, we're all just one tragedy away from them completely eviscerating the Second Amendment and any similar provisions in your state constitution. And people say move. They say you get what you deserve. You get what you voted for. Excuse me? I know how I voted. I didn't vote for any of this. However, where's everybody going to go? Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about the concept of a national divorce this week, and it's gotten lots of talk, and I think it is an interesting conversation. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, and how the Second Amendment is literally under attack right now, which means our country's under attack right now from within, like it never, ever, ever has been before. I want to thank all of you guys for making these streams and this channel possible, who support the channel, those of you that support on Patreon, all you channel members out there, those of you who leave generous super chats, and all of you who are supporters over on Locals. Make sure you're a member of my Locals community, and if you can afford it, also a supporter, because you guys are what keeps this channel going. And Locals is a censorship-free platform where I do live streams over there weekly where I touch guns. And I will be over there tomorrow night doing more of the same. So make sure you join to see extra content you won't see here. You can support monthly over there for extra features and benefits. And you can actually join as a total free member and still financially support the channel for free and keep everything going, and go over there. Now, I'm also going to be going to Lansing soon. If you want to know when I'm going to Lansing and you want to join me, go over to Locals. I have a pinned post with literally all of the details, the time and place I'm going to be. And I have a couple of PDF files I uploaded with maps and places to park and stuff like that that'll help you guys out. So that's for all the Michigan people that have asked, when are you going to the Capitol again? Well, session was canceled 2 days in a row due to all of the rather severe ice storms throughout most of Michigan. And I will be there soon. And check that. It's a pinned post at the very top of my Locals feed right now. So, what do you guys think? I just saw out of the corner of my eye, no divorce. It's the United States for a reason. Well, there's some merit to that thought. And really, if I could just make a swoop and fix everything, it'd be literally as simple as this. Now, sometimes the simplest solution, that's the most obvious and most common sense solution, can be the hardest. Because truth is treason in the empire of lies, as Ron Paul used to say. But here's the real simple solution. I'll cut to the chase right now. Let's just follow the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the founding documents as written, and then we could have America back, and we could have the greatest experiment on self-governance that the world has ever seen. There you go. That's the answer. And the stream should be over right now. And this channel should be over right now, because literally it should be that simple. And that's the most common sense thing we could ever do. Let's make America America again, and let's just follow the Constitution. Does anyone have any objections to that? Now, here's the problem. People in this country have gotten to the point where there's really not much that we agree on anymore. Now, it's fine if we disagree on certain things. I know a lot of you guys that live in the South, for example, love boiled peanuts. And if you love them, you love them, and that's great. And I've tried them because I try to keep an open mind to things like that. And I kind of just think they're disgusting. So there's clearly people that are fans of boiled peanuts, and chime in the chat right now where we definitely disagree. And that's okay, actually. But I love country music, and Johnny Cash is my favorite of all time. So maybe we agree on that. Now, for all you death metal fans out there, not really my thing. So yet again, we disagree. However, when it comes to the core fundamentals of what makes America America, and what a government is supposed to be and what this country, the essence of what these United States are supposed to be, I really look at it like this. If you're going to be an American, you kind of have to agree on the core fundamentals of this country. Because if you don't, it means you probably don't want to be an American. And you should probably get a visa or whatever you need to do and see if another country that would suit your interests, that you feel would be most effective in protecting your safety and happiness. If it's somewhere across the earth that you'd rather live, see if they'll take you in. They might not. And I'm not telling anybody they would have to stay here. However, there's certain things that you literally shouldn't be able to disagree on at all. Now, you can disagree on it if you want to, but it should be futile. Because I do want a country where there's laws. Very few laws, actually. The very, very short document of the Constitution of the United States being the supreme law of the land. That's plenty enough law for me. And that's plenty enough power, which is actually very, very little power, that a federal government should have. And when Marjorie Taylor Greene was she's been talking about this for a long time, thinking about things like, look, we just have irreconcilable differences at this point. Sometimes you sit there and look at somebody else, and this happens in marriage, it happens in businesses, and you just look at the other person on the other side of the table, and it's like, this ain't working. Do you want to fix it? No. Do you want to fix it? No. And then they both just agree to disagree, and they move on. What a concept. And then she came back and said, well, hold on a minute. I didn't mean to totally get rid of the United States government. We would still have a United States government. It would just be really, really small and have very, very few enumerated powers. Okay. And it would basically just exist to just kind of arbitrate and facilitate things between these two different divorced countries. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh, okay, so actually she wants the United States of America to be exactly as the founding fathers wanted it to, where we would have at that time the 13 colonies became the 13 states. And they said the federal government would literally only be there to settle certain disputes and to facilitate trade and allow people to freely move among those 13 states. So at the end of the day, as insane as some people are trying to make her idea sound like, it's actually literally saying, let's start over and make the United States of America the United States of America again. Thanks for the gifts memberships, Mike McClune. Linda just posted up there, thank you, Mike McClune, for gifting 10 channel memberships. I really appreciate it, dude. I put a lot of time and money into this channel, and I'm going to Lansing again next week. My intention is to go down to the PSA, the Gathering event. Money's a little tight right now. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it, but I'm going to try to get down there for you guys in a month so I can try out some new stuff like I did last year when I did a video of the Jackal before it was even released. So I appreciate it, man. It all goes back into the channel. Now, we think about the Bill of Rights, which is where our favorite, the Second Amendment, sits. And I've talked about this a lot, and a lot of you guys have talked about this. And quite frankly, I'm one of the first channels on here that started talking about this a few years ago. Because I got kind of frustrated with a bunch of people saying, and this used to be the status quo, but we're changing it. And that's why I'm talking about, I think we are in a culture war. Maybe a cold civil war. Maybe both, and maybe they're both adjacent to each other, and I don't know. There is differences maybe, but it's maybe more of the same thing. This concept that when I grew up around Second Amendment supporters, it used to always be the thing where they would say, you have the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And then when you ask that to be explained, most gun people and pro-2A people would say, well, you have the constitutional right, meaning the Second Amendment gave you the right to keep and bear arms. And when I was younger, that sounded awesome. It's like, geez, oh, Pete, I live in a country that granted me the right to keep and bear arms. And there's a law written, the Second Amendment, that says I'm allowed to have guns. That's totally sweet. And I know a lot of people still think that way. And that sounds good at first, till you start to really think about the philosophy behind that and the core fundamentals of what our founding fathers acknowledged. And that's actually a bad thing. See, we don't have a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, because if we did, that means what giveth can taketh away. No, the Second Amendment does not grant you any rights. Neither do any of the first 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. They're actually prohibitions on government. Simply put, don't tread on me. Don't tread on my natural rights. That is the core fundamental thing that has always, and hopefully again, can make America different than other countries. That could once again make Washington, D.C. a shining city on a hill, because its only purpose that it was ever formed and allowed to exist at all is to protect our natural right to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment. It doesn't say, and many people pretend that it does, but it doesn't say the United States government allows you to keep guns, a few guns of its choosing. No, it's actually the complete opposite. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. That's the why. That's what I love so much about it. People pretend it's ambiguous. No, it's not. It literally tells you why. Necessary to the security of a free state. Meaning if you don't have it, you won't have a free state, obviously. The right of the people, and that's all of us, everybody, to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But when they refer to the right of the people, that's acknowledging a pre-existing right that pre-existed this country, and quite frankly, pre-existed any country. I believe everybody in the world does have, always has, and will have the right to keep and bear arms, because it's a natural right to survive. It's a natural right to protect yourself. I mean, animals understand this, don't they? If you try to disturb a mama bear and her cubs, she's going to ferociously attack you with her implements and weapons that she has to try to protect the life, to try to carry on her species. Pretty much any animal that exists does that. Now, animals don't understand law. They can't read words, but they understand the natural right to protect yourself. And the founding fathers understood that too. Now, in many countries, they don't enumerate a Bill of Rights, and they don't put clauses and amendments in that state that the government shall not infringe. And that's the core fundamentals of what the United States of America is supposed to be, used to be, ought to be, and hopefully can become again. Whether it's within this one country that we have now that's so darn broken, I really can't even see a light at the end of the tunnel. Or, as some people have been suggesting for a while, and again more recently, that it might take two countries. Now, logistically, how to do it is a whole nother ball of wax, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. I'm not even advocating that we should do it, but it is something to think about. I'd like to say maybe we could have our legislators write a law that says the Make America America Again law. Okay. Yes, that sounds great at first too, but that would be the government granting you and saying, we grant you the privilege of being an American still, or again, or whatever. So I don't know if that's the answer either. But I will give you guys a little bit of the frame of mind of the founding fathers, because some of you know the Bill of Rights, some of you don't. I'm assuming some people to more or less extents than others. But there's a preamble to the Bill of Rights that doesn't get talked about a lot. And I'm going to read it right now. And it literally talks about why they wrote a Bill of Rights. Now, there's tons of other arguments that were had by the founding fathers beforehand. And there's the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, and they argued about different forms of government we should have. Some argue whether we should even have a form of government at all. It basically the concession to signing on to the United States Constitution and the concept of the 13 United States of America was that they made a deal that they were actually going to enumerate and protect some rights. And starts off with the preamble at the very beginning, and this is part of the Bill of Rights. It's just not often talked about and not often read. And Thomas Jefferson was writing to Madison, and Madison had wanted to enumerate many, many rights, like possibly hundreds of them and even more. But Jefferson said, but we can't get the other states to agree on that. And he basically brought up, and I'm paraphrasing this, but well, if we can secure some of the rights, a half a loaf of bread is better than no bread. So there were compromises going on and debates about which rights should be secured right at the founding of this country. The preamble of the Bill of Rights is Congress of the United States begun and held at the city of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. That's when it was written. It was ratified, though, 2 years later, 1791. The conventions of a number of the states having, at one time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the beneficent ends of its institution. So they were already talking about how they needed to declare and secure rights. And this is like when the ink was barely even dry on the Constitution. Resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America, in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislatures, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution. So literally, that was what was said, and that was what was agreed upon to actually write the Bill of Rights. Now, if rights don't come from the government, then what's the purpose of having any government at all? Well, today we look at things like the AFT, according to the former vice president, the AFT. And they're literally, right now, as we speak, trying to make possibly 40 million people in the United States felons overnight by redefining an already unconstitutional gun control law. Now, to me, any reasonable person with common sense is sitting here thinking, well, hold on a minute. If the only reason this government would exist at all is to secure these rights, then what government do we have right now? And I look at it on the federal level, and I think about things like bump stocks, where the king of the United States, Trump, said, I don't like bump stocks. Get them gone. I don't like them. And they said, but sir, we've deemed them to be legal 147 times under the Obama administration. I don't like them. Get them gone. And so they were declared. And the ATF listened to the chain of command and wrote an order and outlawed an accessory that by no statutory definition, nor physical definition, nor dictionary definition could ever be construed as a machine gun via the Unconstitutional National Firearms Act of 1934, but they just did it anyways. Now we fast forward, and they've redeclared what frames and receivers are. They've redeclared that certain triggers that also meet no statutory, nor physical, nor dictionary definition of a machine gun. And this is under the administration of the former vice president of the United States. But that's not enough. It's never enough. See, the more gun control laws that they pass in this country and in these 50 states, people keep getting less and less safe. And I brought this up previously in a stream, and I'm thinking about it more and more. And they call a lot of these people lawmakers. Okay, well, that would mean they're trying to follow the rule of law. Instead, I'm starting to look at a lot of these people as crime makers. And that's actually a double-edged sword and has two meanings. First of all, if they're violating the supreme law of the land, which is the United States Constitution, and the Preamble, the Bill of Rights, says the Second Amendment is the United States Constitution. In my opinion, and I'm pretty darn sure in the Founding Fathers' opinion, those lawmakers are committing a crime. Well, that would make them criminals. Also, it seems to me they're crime makers, meaning they want to make as many criminals as humanly possible. People that are literally still following these completely unconstitutional laws that have been passed, laws that have been signed in by many presidents over the years of both political parties. Look, I like Trump more than Biden, guys, okay? Relax. But Trump did it, Biden did it, they're all doing it. Every single one of them, pretty much. It seems when you just sit there and make these decisions that are all within by unelected bureaucrats, the bureaucratic state, the deep state, people that hopefully you'll never get to meet in real life. When they just, with a stroke of a pen, arbitrarily and capriciously, in the most vague way possible, write these hundreds of page documents saying pistol braces. And they want to make up to 40 million people felons overnight? What is the purpose of government anymore in these United States of America? I think about my home state of Michigan. We have some fighters that are in the Michigan House and in the Michigan Senate. And if you live in Michigan right now, it's time to do something. It's time to start getting your head out of the sand, because it's coming, and it's coming hard, and it's literally happening right now. You need to decide what states you want. Are you going to get behind the people that are going to actually uphold their oath to defend and protect the Second Amendment of the United States? And if you live in Michigan, it'd be Article 1, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution. Or are you going to do nothing? Because I'll tell you what, the other side, who has the slimmest majority you could possibly think of in the Michigan House and Senate, they've got people coming and filling the Capitol lawn saying, do something now. Do something now. Pass gun control yesterday. They're like, well, can you wait till tomorrow? And they're like, no, yesterday. All right, well, you'll have to wait till tomorrow, but that's all right. We'll just file 3 more to make up for the 1 or 2 day delay. I'm not really being facetious at all. Literally, they said, we want gun control yesterday. They came back in session the next week and plunked down a whole series of gun control bills. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. This is what the United States is supposed to be. Is this what the United States is right now? I ask you that, and I encourage a lively discussion in the chat. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. It's a pretty powerful word, entitle, isn't it? Think about that. To which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are pretty beautiful words right there if you think about that for a minute. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What more could you ask for? Oh, let me think here. Literally nothing. This is the country that I want to live in. This sounds like the best country possible, quite frankly. And then they obviously got right to it. Thomas Jefferson did, as he wrote this. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, obviously, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men The only reason the government would exist at all is to secure these rights. It literally says that right there. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's you. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them, that would be you, shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So when people talk about the concept of a national divorce, trying to start America over again, look, I'm not telling you guys exactly what side I'm on because I'm not quite smart enough to figure out how and when and what, but is it really that foreign of an idea? Or are they actually just reading the words that Thomas Jefferson penned almost 250 years ago? Now, when would you do this? And what would it take for it to happen? Well, that's explained next. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. Let's see here. Over 20,000 federal gun control laws and regulations. What do you guys think? Is that a light and transient cause? I don't know. Doesn't sound very light to me. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. And that's why we're where we are right now. We're accustomed to it, and I guess we still have our screens and our video games and our phone, and yeah, I guess things aren't that bad, right? That's what most American people would probably tell you. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. That's another pretty powerful phrase. Absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And they start talking about such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and they talk about what the oppression they were under the King of England. Now, the King of England did many things that were oppressive, many things that reduced them under absolute despotism, but what are people trying to do in this country right now? I know for a fact, at the very least, and this just is predicated on the belief that a civil war might be to a higher extent than a culture war. I don't really know exactly which one's worse than the other in a way. A cold civil war, right? Cultural civil war, or whether it's a culture war. Because, and I didn't invent this saying, but I want to keep it alive and well, I do believe politics is downstream from culture. And when it's truly the will of the people and they make it known, this country has changed many, many things. And if you look at what's going on right now, where many states, including now the very, very small majority of Democrats running the state of Michigan, they're using the culture war. And they're using it very effective to meet their ends of completely disarming us. And then probably wanting to do things that are so bad that they want to make sure we're disarmed first before they would attempt what they want to do next. Because other than that, I can't think of any reason why they would want to disarm us. Because everybody I know who loves the Second Amendment and loves firearms are peaceful people and just want to be left alone. So what would you have to do to the just leave me alone crowd that would be so bad that they would even consider taking up arms? I actually don't want to know. But probably the only way to find out is after everybody's disarmed, right? Now, that's not just me guessing or speculating. You can look at what happened when Mao came through with his so-called cultural revolution in China. Made sure to disarm all the people first. Naturally, because when somebody's goal is to starve a large portion of their country to death, You would probably want to disarm them first before they would sit there and helplessly starve, obviously. When you look at the Third Reich, where they had a large majority of the country go after another large section of people and rat them out and corral them up and put them in train cars to work camps, to gas chambers, you'd probably want to disarm them first too, because if not, they would fight back whatever means they had. And it just goes on and on and on. And you look at this, and history proves what I'm talking about. That anytime a complete totalitarian, dictatorial regime comes into place and truly has the goal of putting their people under absolute despotism, they've always disarmed them first, every single time. And there's a massive attempt, quite frankly, right now, more than I've almost ever seen before, to try to disarm much of the United States of America. And we have a Supreme Court of the United States, and the New York and Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin case was huge. And it's huge Supreme Court precedent. People call it case law. But I'm watching a lot of the states that were affected by this, the quote Bruin decision, literally rendered unconstitutional, and they're doubling down. And they're coming back with laws that are more stringent and are more of an infringement on people's natural rights to keep and bear arms. Thinking of places like New Jersey and New York, for example. The state of California, for example. Literally saying the Supreme Court of the United States of America, we don't care what you have to say. Not only are we not going to listen to you and cease and desist from our illegal, unconstitutional laws, but we're just going to come back and make the laws worse? Think about that for a minute. It's literally like insane. Now, we have had a great civil war in the United States of America. And there was lots of chaos, lots of suffering, and quite frankly, lots of death that occurred. Now, why did that war happen? Well, there's whole novels that are written on it. There's been movies about it, and people will tell different, quote, truths of it. And I would run out of time if I even tried to get into all of the underlining and underpinnings of actually why it happened, all the philosophical reasons. And we're taught, quite frankly, that it was over slavery, and that's all it was about. Well, there was a lot more to it than just that, but that was certainly a factor, right? Really, the core fundamental constitutional issue, the constitutional crisis that was cited by the South that would then declare their secession and declare the Confederate States of America as a separate country. And it's not this simple, guys. You can fill in other people in the chat if you want to talk more about it, but this topic's very deep and it could literally go on for days, okay? There was a law in the United States of America, okay, in the United States of America before the Civil War, and it was called the Fugitive Slave Act, and it was a duly passed law. If you guys want to opine on whether you agree with the Fugitive Slave Act or not, you can. That's not what I'm talking about, and I'm not saying that I agree or condone the Fugitive Slave Act. However, at that time, that was the law of the land. And when slaves would escape from some southern states and go to the north, which were not slave states, they were starting to express grievances and complaints and said, well, you have to return the slave back to us because there's the Fugitive Slave Act, and it's the law of the land that says you have to. And different northern states, localities started saying, no, we're not going to do that. We don't agree with slavery. And I don't think anyone here agrees with slavery. I'm just telling you guys what was going on in that context. The North said, we don't agree with slavery, so we're not going to do it. Now think about right now. Michigan saying, we don't agree with the Second Amendment. We don't agree with Article 1, Section 6, so we're not going to do the Second Amendment. Think about New York saying, we don't agree with the Second Amendment, so we're not going to do it. Now, I'm not saying the Second Amendment is on par with the Fugitive Slave Act. I'm just talking about things that can lead up to the boil-over point for Civil War, looking at the one we did have in this country. I want you guys to understand the very specific context I'm putting these two into. They're not equal. The Fugitive Slave Act was not endowed by our creator. It doesn't hold the same power as the Second Amendment, but where they coincide is they were both laws of the land at the time. Don't forget that. Now, New York saying, we not only don't care about the Second Amendment, and we despise it so much, even though it's the law of the land, that we're not even going to listen to the Supreme Court when they tell us. And we're going to double down and do worse. Well, a lot of that started happening, if you really think about it. Back over, 160 years ago now. And they said, no, there's the Fugitive Slave Act. You will return our slaves because that's the law of the land. And then after a bunch of states in the North said, no, we're not going to do it. We don't agree with you, whatever. There became much civil strife and there became a hot point of contention. It's like, you need to follow the law. No, you need. Think about that for a minute. One half of the country wanting to follow a certain law, the other half of the country not wanting to follow a certain law. Does that sound at least a little bit similar to what's going on right now? Some of you watching this right now live in states that have passed constitutional carry, that are passing Second Amendment protection acts, clearly letting it be known where you stand on the Second Amendment. Well, some of us live in states that really are about 50-50, but you wouldn't know it with the iron fist that the very narrow majority of Democrats are doing right now in Michigan, that are saying, we hate the Second Amendment. We hate the Constitution, which must imply they hate the whole United States of America, and they want to completely and utterly undermine the laws. So I stands the reason that there's a big point of contention right now in this country. If you think about it for a minute. Things heated up as the United States Civil War progressed, or up to the point of. And it wasn't even really like a stark day. There wasn't just like even one day that it truly actually happened. Because it started off as a culture war. It really did. You had a guy named John Brown who went berserk, and he was an anti-slavery person, and he just went and just started like killing slave owners. They later found him and ended up punishing him by death. But there were people that were going through just doing all these little things where it was mostly peaceful at first, but there was still little spurts of violence going on. You think of what went on at Harper's Ferry. And finally, at a certain point, and I know I'm summarizing and skipping over a lot of details just for the purposes of time, and I'm not an expert on the Civil War either, but I know a little bit about the underpinnings of it. Finally, you look at Fort Sumter, right? You look at the fort that's in the southern portion of, still at that point, the United States, and they're like, you know what? If you guys aren't going to follow these laws, it did start off actually before then as a peaceful separation. They were peacefully separating and saying, we declare that we are going to separate. We're going to secede from the Union because we don't feel that you're upholding the rule of law, and we have a certain way we want to live and you have a way you want to live. We're not going to be able to reconcile these differences. So let's split, a divorce, if you will. And then finally at this fort, the South told the Union soldiers, get out of our fort. You're not allowed to be here anymore. And then it started going from cold or cultural to actually pretty darn hot. But even then, at that point, a lot of people didn't know that we were even in a civil war. There's a story, and I don't remember all the exact details of it, but you guys can look it up. There's a story of one of the first battles of the Civil War. People have called it the picnic battle, where there were families out eating a picnic, having a picnic on a warm, sunny day. And the North and South were actually in skirmishes. And they literally just kind of watched it and were amused at it. Like, what the heck's going on here? They were literally like right in the midst, right next to what would become a battlefield. And people were actually starting to shoot at each other at that point. People didn't even know what was going on. I think if you really look at what's going on here in the United States, we probably have about very small percentage, I'll just say, of people who are truly know what's going on at all. whether it's people that want to preserve this republic and preserve the Second Amendment, that are fighting tooth and nail every day, like I hope all of you are. And then there's this probably actually kind of a small minority. I think it's more than the pro-Second Amendment people at this point, I hate to say it, that are actively getting out involved and fighting this culture war, that truly and utterly just want to take out the Second Amendment. And then there's probably the majority of the people, or at the very least, the plurality of people in this country are like, I don't care, whatever. I don't know what's going on. I own a gun. Of course I can own a gun because the Second Amendment grants me the right to do so. And I use it for hunting and maybe target practice. And other than that, people are like, don't do politics, don't vote, don't care, don't even know what's going on. And those people are just kind of sitting there happily eating their picnic with their little checkered tablecloth that you put down on the ground to keep the ants off of your food, your little wicker basket. And they're just sitting there eating and going, do. I live in America. I have the right to keep and bear arms because a piece of paper gave it to me, and I'm just gonna sit here and do. I hate to say it, but that's actually probably the majority, if not the plurality of people that literally have no clue what's going on at all right now, and quite frankly, don't even care. Then there's the people that are hell-bent to literally completely and utterly destroy the Second Amendment, which will destroy the Bill of Rights and completely destroy this country. Because if you have a beautiful brick wall, just think about this, and it's made of 10 bricks, which is the Bill of Rights, and you go and just pull one of those bricks out, that actually weakens that whole wall. Because now you've got exposed mortar here. If the bricks are walls built in an overlapping fashion, as soon as you take one away, it's now loses that little strength in the middle, right? It exposes a little more mortar for the weather to get to it. So you can't just take the Second Amendment away, or the rest of it's going to fall rather quickly. Just like if you took the First Amendment away and we weren't allowed to talk about the Second Amendment, then the Second Amendment would be weakened and go away, and actually all of them, and the complete rule of law in this country. So people are sitting there, and then there's the other side that wants to destroy that. And in my opinion, must want to destroy the whole country. And they're being the most vocal right now. I hate to say it, but they are. They're being the most adamant right now. Let me know what's going on in your states that have renewed vigor for gun control. I know there's a few right now that have actually been hanging out with people from Michigan, namely Colorado and Illinois. Some of your state legislators took a trip with some of the people from my state. I'll get into that in just a minute here. But here's what I've seen in Lansing, Michigan so far. I was there a short time ago, just a couple days after the tragedy in MSU. And I thought the intention, and I think it was sincere for a lot of people, and I'm hoping for most, and I'm hoping, right, was to mourn the losses of their fellow classmates. And it's okay to mourn, and it's good to mourn. I like mourning because I think it's part of the natural healing process that it takes to deal with tragic things like death. But then as soon as they said, we mourn, but we don't want your thoughts and prayers, we want gun control, and we want it now. I said, well, hold on a minute. Now, again, not to impugn the hearts and souls of everybody that was there, because I don't know everybody that was there. But when I listened to the chants of the crowd, I listened to the keynote speakers, and as I walked next to my state representative, Jamie Thompson, who a lot of you guys got to hang out with and meet in my live stream here earlier this week, I'm like, well, if I'm not mistaken, this sounds like a protest against the Second Amendment. And indeed, that's what I believe it was. And there were hundreds of people on that lawn that were able to assemble like that. And I walked by with my state representative, Jamie Thompson, and one of her staffers named Devin, who's also a good dude. I know Devin's loves the right to keep and bear arms. I know Jamie does as well, and I know I do. So there was three of us. We We walked by. She went into session. He went and did what he needed to do to conduct his work for the day. And I went up to the gallery, and I was up there literally, I think, by myself. There was like 2 or 3 other random people up there. And then before you know it, the gallery was full. It was hundreds of people, they said in the news. I think it was 1,000. I think actually in this case, the news exaggerated down. And I had my 2A EDU hat on. It wasn't this exact one. It was this one right here. And I sat there and I listened to many state reps, not all, but many, that gave their heartfelt condolences and then called for gun control. And that saddened me, because although I didn't know any of these 3 students at that tragedy, I'm sure they were very special people, and it saddened me that 3 people lost their lives at such a young age. And it kind of made me a little angry when I heard all of these people. And look, it's not always on party lines, but in this case, they did all happen to be Democrats. I'm just saying. That stood there. And they were using their caskets as a soapbox to promote their political agenda. And it saddened me that we would even live in a country, or that I would even live in the state of Michigan, where you would even dare politicize the death of young people to pass radical, unconstitutional legislation. But they did do that. And I felt bad for the people that were there, that their sole purpose was to genuinely mourn, because all I heard is chants of gun control. And besides people that worked there, I watched it by myself. Sat there and observed all of that by myself. Now think about that. There was a resolution passed in the House to mourn the loss of these 3 young people, and I supported the fact that lawmakers were willing to express their condolences and help the community heal. That was a good thing to do. But then I heard all the gun control demands by myself. Now, in a state of over 10 million people, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. If it was 800, 900, or 1,000, I couldn't tell the difference. And I don't know the motives of all of them, and I didn't hear everybody what they individually said. It's just the general chant of the crowd was, gun control now, gun control now. That was the gist of it. Gun control yesterday, more specifically. I'm like, man. I just watched by myself 1,000 people or 900 people, whatever it was, come to demand that the state legislature strip us of our natural right to keep and bear arms. I'm going to Lansing again, guys, soon. All the details are on my locals community. I'm going to go there again, whether it's by myself or not, but I hope I'm not there by myself. I know a lot of you guys don't live in Michigan, and even if you live 5 minutes from the Capitol, I'm not going to impugn you if you can't go. Trust me. I get it. I get the millions of reasons why. But even if I am by myself, I'm going to be there. But where's the culture at in the United States right now? Let me know what's going on in your home states. What's going on in the state of Colorado right now? Do you guys have one person with a 2A hat on watching 1,000 college students demand gun control? Or do you guys have 1,000 people wearing 2A hats with their AR-15s that are saying, don't tread on me, with one college student? Or is it somewhere in between? I don't know. I can't be everywhere at once, but I will say this. Are we heading towards a civil war? I hope not. I hope not a violent one. I don't want that. I'm not calling for that, and I don't want that. But are we in a culture war right now? Heck yeah, we are. And I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I'm afraid of this. And tell me if I'm wrong, guys, in the chat. Please just tell me the truth, though. I'm afraid we're losing it. I'm afraid we are in a culture where whether we want to or not. Because see, those people on the picnic, somebody said Bunker Hill in the chat. I'm not exactly sure the name of that battle, but that could have been it. People having that picnic didn't realize there was a civil war that had just started, but they were in it whether they wanted to be or not. And I'm sure nobody's watching this far in that's like, I came for the guns and I left for the politics. They've already unsubbed from this stream. So this is probably me preaching to the choir here, but the Second Amendment has become one of the most political things in this country. It's so political, they'll stand up on young people's caskets to preach from that pulpit on it. The other side's literally made it that political, whether me, you, or anybody, quite frankly, likes it or not. And you can either fight like hell on the side of good, and you can fight like hell on the side of evil. But evil always has prevailed, currently is prevailing, and always will prevail when good men do nothing. Because when you do nothing, you're actually losing. See, you don't have to be on the other side outright to support it. You can just do nothing. And you can become implicit in it. And you can become part of it by literally just doing nothing. I'm not saying everyone needs to go to my state capital or their state capital, but I hope all of you are doing something. And I presume that those of you watching this stream tonight probably actually are. But why I'm saying all this is to remind you guys, there's a culture war going on right now, whether anyone wants to acknowledge it, knows about it, or wants there to be one. Like, that's all irrelevant at this point. I never said once that I want our country to have a divorce, or that I want our country to have a culture war, or I want our country to have a cold civil war. Of course I don't want. I want us to live in a government that to us, right? To us will seem most effective in defending and protecting our safety and happiness. Of course that's what I want, but unfortunately you don't always get what you want. And just because people don't want to acknowledge things doesn't mean it's not happening. So with that, I encourage you guys to talk to your friends about this. You have to think about these things because it's going on right now, whether you want it to or not. And I saw somebody just now that said in the chat, they said people are just sick of the politics. Sure. I'm sure you're sick of them too. Look, don't blame me for it. I'm not creating this. I would do anything I could to stop it. I'm trying to stop it. I just don't have the power to do so. This is political, whether you or anybody wants it to be or not. Because there's politicians right now on the federal level and in many of these 50 states that are trying to pass gun control at a record pace. So it's happening. Let's read some of these super chats, Linda. I want to see what people have to say about this while we're hanging out here. DLD After Dark. What's happening, man? How you doing, dude? With the super chat and a channel member. Thanks, man. He says Mike McClune gifted 10 channel memberships. Woo. Well, thank you very much, Mike McClune. Obviously, you've always been a big channel supporter, and thank you for being a generous supporter as well. DLD After Dark, and shout out to you and your channel, man, and keep up with the culture war fight the best you can, dude. Thanks. Prepared for. What's happening, man? Thanks for the super chat. He says, what does well regulated mean in the Second Amendment? And what are good things to read to understand the Second Amendment? Okay. First of all, you can look at, and I'll prepare a list for you guys and come up with some links where I can point you to specific documents. But there's many Founding Fathers quotes. There's many founding documents that talk about what the Second Amendment, what the intent was. And actually, here's the beautiful thing about it. It literally tells you what it is and why it is right there. So you could look at it as 3 elements if you want to. And it's not really like that, but just think about it. A well-regulated militia. Okay, you're asking us, what is that? All right. Being necessary to the security of a free state. So whatever that is, it's necessary to us being free. Then the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, the other side is starting to try to get pedantic with the Second Amendment. And they're saying things like, well, that depends on what the definition of the word "the" is. That depends on what the definition of "we" is. And there's all these semantics arguments. And they're actually literally using these in major court cases right now to try to argue for gun control. It's literally insane, but they're doing it and they're trying. Not so successfully, but sometimes, unfortunately, successfully. So the biggest argument, I'll boil it down to this, because I think this is what you're getting at. We know why, because it's necessary to the security of a free state. But the classic trope from the other side, the anti-gun, the anti-2A is, it says regulated right in there. Well, that's a very lazy argument, and that's a very uneducated argument, because they did not understand how the term regulated was used in the context of the Second Amendment, and they did not understand what it means in context to a militia, and they don't understand the parlance of the founding fathers who wrote the document, okay? Now we think of like, there's all these gun regulations, which means gun control. No. A well-regulated militia. That meant that the militia would be well-regulated, meaning it was well-formed, meaning it was at the ready, it was well-trained, it was well-armed. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed was a major component of, so that we could have a well-regulated militia. It meant that they were trained, that they would drill, all of the different things that you would think about that would make them a supreme fighting force, which the founding fathers wanted the militia to be more powerful than the federal United States Navy. The Marine Corps, for quick and rapid deployment at the beginning of this country, right? To go over, and they call them the leathernecks, so they could help protect ships from the Barbary pirates who would a lot of times take over ships by slashing people's necks. So the Marines would wear leather around their necks. Some of you Marines know more about this story than I do, but I know a little bit of it. Look, notice I didn't mention the United States Army, because the founding fathers never even intended us to have a standing army in times of peace, only when we were at war. And if you look, biggest fears of the founding fathers, and there's tons of quotes to back up what I'm saying here, although I don't have them all memorized. One of their biggest fears is that we would ever even have a standing army. And like literally one of their biggest fears, and they said so themselves. So the well-regulated militia meant a militia that actually meant business, that could defend the country against enemies both foreign and domestic. And that if the government were to become tyrannical, the militia could come in and say, I don't think so. So it doesn't mean well-regulated as in like tons of gun control on the militia. And also it doesn't mean that the right of the people to keep and bear arms has to have any connection to being like in an actual militia at this particular moment in time. No, it was looked at that we all need to be armed with no infringements, meaning any arms, that we should all be able to keep them and bear them. And that would be simply put to where if you needed to, if your country called on you to protect it from itself or a foreign invader, that you could assemble into a militia and take care of things. But it's not directly connected to militia service, and it is an individual right, not a collective right. That was a really long answer, but maybe that's where you wanted me to head with it. I don't know. Thanks for the super chat, prepared for. Ryan S. with a super chat. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, man. And you were reading my mind. I said this probably 20, 30 minutes after you left this chat, but he said, when good men do nothing, evil always prevails. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm just trying to motivate you guys tonight so you guys can try to help motivate more and more people. Culture war, cold cultural civil war. Man, the lines blur, and hindsight's so often 2020, you know? You guys might, if we're still fortunate enough to be friends with each other and hanging out like we do, maybe I could come back in a year or 5 or 20 years and tell you guys, yes, now that I know what I know now. Reminds me of that old country song by Toby Keith. I wish somehow I didn't know now what I didn't know then. I might wish now I didn't know what I'll know in 5 years, the way things are heading. I'm not even joking when I say that, but hey, I don't know. You might have to ask me 5 years from now exactly where we're at right now, right? Because it's a lot easier to read history than it is to predict the future. But understanding history can be one of the best predictors of predicting the future, right? Thanks for the super chat, man. VA Wolf, what's happening, dude? My friend from Virginia. How you doing, man? I know you're fighting the good fight, the culture war, and everything that's going on down there in your home state. He says, I'm with Michigan and against tyranny. Hang in there, man. And, dude, I'm against tyranny in your state or any of these 50 states. And I appreciate the encouragement, dude, and the contribution to help keep the channel going. Thanks a lot, man. Steve0545, thanks for the super chat and for being a channel member. He says, tyrants want you to forget what inalienable means. I agree with you, dude. Absolutely. This is why we're endowed by our creator with certain unalienable rights. Think about that. If the government gave them to us, they could take them away. But as our first official founding document says, no, they were not given to us by the government. So the government literally has no authority whatsoever to even think about, let alone actually take away the free exercise of those rights. Yep, unalienable. All these people of Harvard, of Princeton, of whatever, and they're all, getting elected to these high-level political positions. Yeah, they need to go back to 4th grade and look up what unalienable means. Inalienable, right? Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Thanks for the super chat, man. Marco Polo, what's happening, dude? Thanks for the super chat and for being a channel member. A Virginian who stands with 2A Michiganders. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. And I'll say it again to another one of my friends from Virginia. Shout out, Virginia. I know you guys have gone back and you've gone forth and gone back again, and now you're trying to get back on the better side of things. So I definitely wish you guys luck in what you're doing in your home state. And yeah, man. People like to call us Michiganders, and if you guys want to call us Michiganders, you can, but it's kind of like calling yourself a silly goose. I like Michiganian. That's what I'm going to say from now on, and I've been saying it for a while, so I don't care what you guys call yourselves or what you guys call us, but I don't know. Michigander, I'm not going to go by that. But that's not what you said, Marco. I'm just saying. Most people want to call us Michigander, and I'm like, why do you want to call yourself? There's the goose and the gander. Yeah. Thanks for the super chat, man. And QD with the super chat. Thanks, QD. I appreciate it. Says, why is the most famous picture of Lincoln a vanilla sky with a different body? Was Davis Lincoln's twin brother? I don't know, actually. He says, who knows? The important thing is the American spirit, which means fighting for right. I'll have to go back and look at that, man. It is like a different body. I've heard lots of stuff with Lincoln. I do not know as much about the conspiracies as some people. I do see our friend Band Talk in the chat here and there. Are you still there, Band Talk? If you and QD want to have a little bit of a Lincoln conspiracy thing, go at it. I actually don't know the answer, man, but most definitely the last part of what you said is the important thing is the American spirit, which means fighting for right. I completely agree with you, dude. And yeah, we're fighting like crazy right now on so many levels in so many of our states and even federally to try to keep them from literally bulldozing the Second Amendment like crazy. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Loki, PDX with a super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. He says, we are not united anymore. National divorce is the only way where the Constitution and our natural rights survive. Look, it kind of almost seems that way for me, but here's the thing. I joked at the beginning of this, I'm not running for president. Okay. You guys are like, well, obviously. I get like 3 votes. 3 people in this chat would vote for me, right? He got 3 votes. No. And I'm not George Washington. And you guys are still nodding and laughing at me and saying, well, obviously not, dude. I don't know how to do it or what the answer would be. And I don't want to see things go down where it's brother versus brother and things like that. I don't think anyone inherently wants that. But I also ask the question on the other side where it's like, how long can we keep living in a country where half the people hate the other half the people, it seems like anymore, to put it quite frankly. And maybe don't hate them personally, because a lot of people, for religious and moral reasons, try not to fester hate in their heart, but certainly hate the ideals that the other side is espousing, at the very least. And here's the thing, guys. How do you split it up? How do you do it? Well, the easiest, like real quick answer, which sometimes the easiest, quickest answer is the best. Sometimes it's not. And it can go both ways in all fairness. But what do? Do you say, well, this is just a red state and this is a blue state, so it's all the red states become one country and all the blue states become another country? Okay. But where do you put the state of Michigan? Where they say that like 50.1% are Democrats. And then they say that 49.999% are Republicans. Now, that's what they say with the most free, fair, and fortified elections of all time. Now, hold on a minute real quick. Susan Wiki. You guys are like, wait a minute. She left you. Hold on. Susan Wiki and all the people that working at YouTube. The most popular and the most fortified of all time. And that's from Time Magazine, which is a NewsGuard certified source, I would note. She didn't actually leave, guys. Did you read? Did you hear? I wished her farewell last week. It was a joyous farewell. But she missed me, and she said, oh my gosh, 2-8 Edu got so sad. She said, don't worry, we can still be friends. I'm going to join your locals community. I looked at her and said, sweetheart, I don't think so. Mateo already booted you from the locals community. We're never, ever, ever, ever getting back together. We were never together in the first place, but we're still never, ever, ever getting back together. You can't join my locals community. Persona non grata. She's like, okay. So she came back to YouTube, and she's actually still working for YouTube, guys. She's a consultant. So for all of you that miss Susan, she's still working for YouTube. She's now a consultant. So there you go. No, but I'm serious, guys, and this isn't me countering you, Loki. We kind of actually did have a little exchange in the comment section, which is, quite frankly, part of the reason why I put those things in the title. I don't know exactly where the lines blur between culture war, cold civil war. I understand there probably is a distinguishment. I'm just not quite smart enough to articulate the difference because they do kind of blur together for me. And if I were to think that it would be best for us to have a national divorce, because I'm just not quite sure yet. And this isn't me being wishy-washy or fence center. I'm just admitting to you guys, I'm not particularly smart enough just to figure all of this out, like, to the T, okay? At least I'm being honest with you. But if I were to favor, and some things some things do sound tempting with it, to have a national divorce and just split her in half. How do you do it? Do you do it state by state? Do you do it city by city? Because even if you look at like the map, and look, guys, blue and red, yeah, those are Bloods and Crips gang colors, and blue and red is the two colors of the two parties, right? Jesse Ventura wrote a book called Dema, Crips, and Bloodlikins or something like that. Do you guys remember that book? He was basically saying some of these street gangs are not a whole lot different in many ways than some of these gangs in D.C. That was the gist of it, but I digress. You look at the map, and I'm only using this just in the colloquial sense so that we can kind of look at the physical. You look at the state of California, the bluest state in the country, But then you look at like the northern half and some of the southern part, and it's like almost all red. Jeez, oh Pete. Huh. You look at the state of Michigan, and the most freest, secured, and fortified election of all time said that the Democrats won by like 3 seats in the House and 3 seats in the Senate. So where do you put Michigan? Now, keep in mind, I want to be free and want to go back to the literal Constitution 100%, as much as I think almost anybody wants to. So you guys know what side I'd be on. But would the people from the red states throw me into the communist states of America? Because I guess electorally or allegedly, according to widely accepted election results by the Associated Press, remember, they always declare it before they even finish, but that's also NewsGuard certified, Susan. Now look, do I just get thrown into the communist states of America? I know the next thing some of you are typing right now is just move right now. Okay? At a certain point, you have to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and when to run. But if you're sitting there dead even 50-50, do you bail on the fellow freedom fighters in your state and say, sorry, guys, I'm running over here? I don't know. There were battles in the American Revolution, the Revolutionary War, where there were times when the founders, if you will, the patriots, if you will, were not doing so good in some of those battles. And would have probably been a lot easier just to run somewhere. Good thing they all didn't run, though. But there is a time, though, when you're so outnumbered 10-1, if you can escape to live to fight another day. I'm not trying to go in circles with this, but that's why this topic's complicated, isn't it? One I've been thinking about a lot, and I definitely look forward to reading the chat because I think a lot of you probably have some thoughts about this. What about the state of Virginia? Virginia's had a number of, some of my friends here are from Virginia. Virginia's had a number of Democrat governors in a row and a very blue state legislature. But somehow the culture's changing a little bit in Virginia lately. And now Youngkin's the governor. And now they're slowly but surely shifting the power within their states. Where do you put them? Some people would still say you could prove on paper that Virginia's blue. Some people would say you could prove on paper it's red. But I think no matter how you look at it, it is trending right now closer to red than it was trending just a few years ago. Where do you put them at? I'm not saying I want to put anybody anywhere. I'm just trying to think of the pros and cons. It's tough. It's really tough. Thanks for the super chat, man. I appreciate that and appreciate the thoughtful discussion. Philly P with the super chat. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being a channel supporter. And I don't know if there was a message that was intended to go with that or if we missed it. So thanks, man. If you had one, maybe I'll be able to read it afterwards. But I appreciate the support, dude. Rainy Day with the super chat and the channel member 762. Yeah, let's see here. I'm thinking about giving him a shout out. I'm going to give you guys a little teaser for my stream tomorrow on Locals, okay? And if you meant to leave a message, I'll read it afterwards. But thanks for the contribution, dude. I really do appreciate it. And you guys are being generous tonight. I might be able to make it to my state capital next week and maybe still make my way down south to go to the PSA The Gathering event. One of the main reasons I want to go is because it's open to the public, and I think some of you will be there, and I want to meet face-to-face. But hopefully I can get some videos on some new guns. Like, I know a lot of you were excited when I showed the Jackal before it came out when I went there last year. But so I'm going to give you a little teaser. We're going to open up some stuff that we can't on YouTube. It's just against the policy, so don't think I'm playing hard to get, guys. Some stuff I can't do here, but I'm doing a lot of that over on Locals. How about some 762 by 39, okay, from Azerbaijan? Azerbaijan? What the heck? Well, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. And we'll go through this and take a peek. What country is that? Well, it's part of the former Soviet Union, and it's like 91.9% Muslim, and there's 10 million people that live there and stuff. So we are going to look at some ammo made in Azerbaijan. 762. Thanks for the super chat, man. QD with another generous super chat. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Oh, geez. Oh, geez. This is kind of funny, but this is part of the culture war. Think Z globally and eat Z bugs. Oh, boy. My pronouns are Z's or... Can you imagine this? Just think about this right now. Oh, boy. Now, I will say this. Those people that were sitting there at Bunker Hill or whatever hill it was, eating their picnic, right? 160 years ago, and there was skirmishes going on. You know what I mean? At least hopefully they had like something reasonable to eat. Maybe they were eating like a turkey leg, or just think of that. This country's fights and fights and fights, and we've evolved ourselves to the point where the highest form of evolution is that we would not even remember the difference between a boy and girl. That was the Supreme Court justice, wasn't it? Zeezer, and we've elevated ourselves where you'll have nothing, you'll be happy, and you'll eat bugs. Thanks for the laugh, man. I mean, it's not really a laughing matter. These people are actually dead serious. But it's like, oh, I'm glad I'm hanging out with people that are calling some of this stuff out. What's happening, QD? Another generous super chat. Thanks so much, dude. Dude, I'll tell you what. Put in a request of something you want me to look at the gathering. If you want a video, and I'll try to find it there and give you a personalized video, man. He says, for F's sakes, and I appreciate that because I do try to make this a family-friendly channel. He says, the Civil War was a Photoshop war. VA was the capital. Mind you. Yeah, like I said, the great state of Virginia. I do have a lot of friends in Virginia, a lot of good people there. And they didn't have Photoshop out back then, but I think what you're saying is it might not have been exactly as it appeared in many ways, or maybe things were propagandized, right? And that wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, have we ever had a war that wasn't full of propaganda? Probably not. Thanks for such a generous super chat, dude. I appreciate it, man. The Commonwealth of Virginia. I just saw that other corner of my eye, and yes, we do have several states that are Commonwealth. Commonwealth of Virginia, Commonwealth of Kentucky, right? Help me out, guys. Are you kidding me, dude? Thank you so much, QD. Seriously, dude, I really, really appreciate it, man. And I'm going to say this afterwards because I don't ever ask you guys for money, but it's been tough for me lately to keep things going. More tough than I would ever let you guys know, but thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you guys. Literally all of you. Thank you. He says, buy alcohol. Keep it up, dude. Or don't, if it's like an issue. I appreciate it, dude. Thank you. Probably not going to buy alcohol, but well, I guess I kind of will be, actually. I think the gasoline in Michigan contains at least 15% ethanol, which is alcohol, but I want to put it in my car to travel down south to South Carolina. Shout out to all the people from the Carolinas, by the way, too. Those are definitely nice states that I like to travel to. So, yeah, I will be buying alcohol. Oh, boy. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Okay, right on. Can you guys tell me real quick in the chat what's the technical difference? Or just tell me to look it up. I would say something like that to you guys. Look it up. Don't expect. No. If you guys have a way in one sentence to tell me what the difference is. I know I'm saying I'm sure there is a difference. I just don't know technically what the difference is. Why they have a nomenclature Commonwealth. I probably will look that up over the weekend. Loki PDX with another super chat. Thanks, man. My pronouns are 2A EDU. Absolutely. I approve of that. Oh boy, could you imagine if I was actually running for president? My pronouns are 2A EDU. I'm 2A EDU, and I approve this message. This campaign was financed by the Loki PDX Super PAC. All other associates and affiliates. This individual campaign is not responsible for this message. Could you imagine? Oh boy. Here, Linda, we can pin this up here real quick because I called for it. Look it up. Jeez, I love you guys. I will look it up. I know there is a lot to it. It's just, I don't know. There's only so much time, and I've never truly researched why some states go by a commonwealth. I'm like, one of you guys are going to tell me to look it up. All right, I get it. I get it. Okay, Linda's throwing some stuff out there about what a commonwealth is or isn't. Okay, I'm going to go over this real quick here. Because there's some stuff going on right now, and there's some kind of, let's just say this, maybe a little bit of collusion with the federal government in some of these states. Now, you guys who were watching the channel, just a few months ago, we were on here ranting and raving about gun control is literally passing right now. It passed the House because that was controlled by Democrats, and they pushed that through. Some Republicans voted for it in the House, too. Make no mistake. But it passed the House. Then it went to the Senate. And to break the filibuster, there was, 20 Republicans? It's like literally insane. Covering like almost half the states in this union came over and voted for that gun control, that so-called safer communities, bipartisan gun control thingamajigger, whatever. Yeah. I call it the McConnell-Cornyn bill because those were the two real big players that basically told the other FUD and Rhino Republicans, we'll give you cover. We'll give you financial and political cover if you vote. That's what Mitch told them and Cornyn told them. Now, these are from two very red states, like as red as it gets. Kentucky and Texas, are you kidding me? Yeah, they... Jeez, oh, Pete. West Virginia? Almost heaven? West Virginia? When I'm passing through West Virginia here, hopefully in a month, I think I might actually literally make it, guys. You guys were so generous tonight. Thank you. When I literally am listening to John Denver, almost heaven, West Virginia, love driving through that state. Beautiful. Yeah, that's like an understatement to the word beautiful. They're like one of the reddest states. They're senators. Both of them. Ugh. Not only the Democrat Joe Manchin, but Capito, the Republican senator from West Virginia. All these states voted for this gun control bill. Well, what did it do? It did a lot of things. Deprived adults from the ages 18 to 21 their right to keep and bear arms in a sense because it put all of them on a mandatory 10-day or more delay. And a right delayed is a right denied in many cases, right? Well, it passed. And also in there was red flag law money to bribe the states, okay? To bribe the states. And all 50 states in this union got a certain amount of bribe money that would go to different portions of the government. From what I understand, in Michigan, the bribe money is going to be funneled through the Michigan State Police, okay? Yeah. I'm going to share this article, though, because it also appears that some of my friends, legislators in the states of Illinois and Colorado were involved in this a little bit. And I know I have friends from both of those states hanging out with me tonight. Yeah, Mike McLuhan, Take Me Home, Country Roads. Great song. I can't sing it here because you guys don't want me to. Like, I literally couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, and they would actually copyright me, even if I did a miserable failed attempt of trying to sing it. So, you guys know what I'm talking about, though. If you don't know the song, look it up, like you guys just told me to a few minutes ago. See? I can get back at you guys. Let me go over here, and I'm just going to present this little article, okay? All right. And I don't think I have a link for this in the description, but I imagine I probably could. I probably could do that, I think. I don't know if I should do anything nice for you guys tonight or not. Maybe I will. Maybe I still like you guys a little bit. Not so much, but a little bit, right? Okay, check this out. All right, let me come over here. This is from Michigan Advance, and this was sent to me by my friend Ron. If you're watching, shout out, because I did not know this article existed. And this is doing business the good old-fashioned way. When all else fails, just grease someone's pocket and bribe them. Michigan lawmakers attend White House meeting on red flag gun reform laws. You guys know my stance on red flag laws by now. If not, go back and watch some previous videos, including ones I've done in the last week. A trio. And this is scary, guys. So I just want you guys to know some stuff that might be brewing in some of your states here, okay? This is going to cover a lot, unfortunately. A trio of Michigan lawmakers participated in a White House meeting Wednesday to discuss extreme risk protection orders. These are red flag laws. ERPO laws allow family members, law enforcement, and other responsible individuals to request a court order that would temporarily prohibit people in crisis from accessing firearms if they present a danger to themselves or others. Yeah, that was written with a lot of political fluff. No, the red flag law they're proposing in Michigan and in other states right now, concurrently, would be an ex-girlfriend, an ex-roommate, an aunt and uncle, a cousin, like any police officer, mental health professional, of course, brother, sister, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, mailman, neighbor, mailman, dad. I just repeated myself, but you guys know what I'm getting at, right? Okay. 19 states currently have red flag laws in place, while Michigan and Minnesota are considering such legislation this session. They're going after Minnesota hard right now, too. Others, including Colorado, Vermont, and Florida. Florida. That's where everyone tells me I need to move to. See, this is why this whole national divorce, culture war, civil war, this is where it gets complicated. My friend Catherine Henry lives in Florida, and shout out to the Catherine Henry channel. She's awesome. Shout out to Lori DeVries, who's in the chat tonight, who's her co-host over there on their show. But look, Catherine's like, dude, you're moving to Michigan. Like, it's sunny from Michigan to Florida. You're moving to Florida from Michigan, she says. It's sunny down here. I'm at the beach. I'm on the phone with her one day. I'm like, she's like, how's it going? I'm like, it's 17 degrees. She's like, it's 83. I'm on the beach. My only decision was today is what color beach towel. I'm like, no, look. She's fighting the good fight and actually testified in front of her state legislator for the so-called constitutional carry bill. She did a heck of a job. There's some of that footage on the Restore Freedom channel and the Catherine Henry channel. Florida's the gun shine state and like very pro-gun in so many ways, but they have red flag laws. It says others, including Colorado, Vermont, and Florida, are seeking to strengthen and expand their existing ERPO laws. You guys aware of that in those states? If you're not, now you're aware. This sucks. Wednesday's meeting was convened by Julie Chavez Rodriguez, President Biden, Senior Advisor, and White House Intergovernmental Affairs Director. If that's how long this person's title is, we have way too much government. Just think about that. A government where their title, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, like, I can't even, like, that's her title. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious in the Biden regime. Along with Stephanie Feldman, Biden Deputy Assistant and Senior Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, that's her title, and Rosie Hidalgo, Biden Special Assistant and Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Dude, that's all their titles from now on. When I can't even read your title without running out of breath, whatever. 3 Michigan legislators attended. State Senator Rosemary Bayer, who I talked about in my stream not too long ago, and their plan for gun control in Michigan, and then the tragic event literally happened. I was in the middle of that stream, like crazy, like so crazy I wouldn't want to and couldn't even make it up. Rep Ranjiv Puri, he's the one that said F your thoughts and prayers in that infamous tweet, but he actually said the full word. And Rep Kelly Breen, Democrat of Novi, as the third gathering hosted by the White House officials on ERPO. Now, keep in mind, this wasn't just a meeting, just to have tea and wafers, like you guys might be thinking, okay? No. This was talking about the millions of dollars of, quite frankly, bribery money, okay? It goes on to talk about, let me see here where we're at. Bayer helps lead the Michigan Anti-Gun Caucus, told the Michigan Advance she was honored to participate in the discussion and provide updates on the effort to implement gun violence reduction bills, gun control bills, including those introduced in Michigan last week. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to read her quote because it's too boring. Bayer and other Democrats in the Senate introduced 11 bills last week. Basically, it's 11 bills, but it's really three main topics that I discussed on this channel. And I'm sure a lot of you guys saw that video, but it's 11 bills, but most of those are supporting bills for the red flag laws, the universal registration, licensing, background checks, confiscation scheme bill, and then the storage bill that empowers criminals in your home where they have the armed advantage over you. That's those. This comes after February 13th shooting at Michigan State University. But it's going on here talking about how the White House is getting together, not just with Michigan. And this is the primary focus of this article, but you heard some of the other states, Florida, trying to get them to strengthen theirs. Vermont, Illinois, Colorado, and others. They talk about how and this is leadership in the Michigan House too, this Puri, I don't know how to pronounce his name, quite frankly, Puri, F your thoughts and prayers. They're reiterating that again. Now, here's the one I'm talking about, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. This was the federal law that former Vice President Biden signed last year, included $750 million in federal funding for states to implement red flag laws. Last week, the Department of Justice announced an investment of over $231 million through 49 grant awards to states, territories, and the District of Columbia. 49. I know that includes a couple territories. I know Puerto Rico was part of that, and the District of Columbia. So that means that it's still almost all states as well as territories. And then they talk about nearly $8 million of that was awarded to the Michigan State Police. I believe $7.9 million. Other state legislative leaders attending the meeting were Colorado Rep. Mike Wiseman, Florida Senator Lori Berman, and Illinois Rep. Maura Hirschauer, all Democrats. So think about that. These are from quite a few different states, and just wanted to make you all aware so you knew what was going on. Craziness. QD with another huge super chat. Dude, thank you so much, man. He said, just make it. I literally think that this YouTube money will be able to come into my checking account just in time to pay for me to make it next month. Thanks a lot, man. I really, really appreciate it, dude. Thank you. Yeah. QD, thanks for another super chat, man. Mad at your stepdad? Red flag. Yeah. Just think about that for a minute. Mad at your stepdad? Oh, imagine this, guys. What do you think the odds are that somebody out there might be mad at their ex-boyfriend? Do you think that's possible? Do you think anyone's mad at their ex-husband or mad at their ex-wife? That could never, ever, ever be ripe for abuse, right? Like, I've never heard of any scorned ex-girlfriend. Look, I wish it was as simple as that you could just red flag if you were an ex-girlfriend girlfriend in this new proposed red flag law in Michigan. It's actually worse than that. It's actually a dating partner. And when it goes on to talk about what a dating partner truly is, you don't even have to make it to the level of boyfriend and girlfriend. You actually don't even make it to first base before they're a qualified current or former dating partner. And keep in mind, when they say former, they literally mean like in your whole life. If you're 90 years old now and you had a twinkle in your eye for a darling young lady and you picked a daisy for her, but when you went to hand it to her, she said, screw you, and she left, that would actually even count. Because it actually just has to be that you had some type of like encounter with them, that you had the expectation that it would lead to romantic involvement. So that's code word for saying you went out with someone and you wanted them. And even if they denied you or by bad luck, like it never actually went down, that would actually still probably qualify. I left the links to those bills in the description of that video that I did last week, as well as several other ones. So you guys can read the exact verbiage for yourself, but it doesn't even say that you even had to make it to first base. You didn't even have to kiss her. You could have wanted to kiss her, but for some reason it didn't happen, and that would still be considered if there was expectations of romantic. Like, this is literally crazy stuff. Like, crazier than I could even really comprehend. Yes, QD. If you ever banged someone, they can red flag you. Absolutely. If you ever held a girl's hand, they could red flag you. I think even like if you wanted to hold her, I'm not even joking. Go read it for yourself, guys. But the way I read it, if you wanted to hold her hand, but somehow it didn't happen because whatever, but you were hanging out with her and you wanted to hold hands, but for some reason you didn't actually hold hands, you could still be, that could be a person that could file suit and red flag you. No, you don't get a court-appointed attorney. This is a civil proceeding, so you're not presumed innocent. No. It's a preponderance of evidence, where if just 1/1000% more of the evidence weighs in the favor of issuing the red flag versus not, they'll issue it. There's no exculpatory evidence, of course, though, because it's an ex parte hearing, meaning you're not allowed to be there. You're not even allowed to know what happened. So, of course, you're not there to defend yourself. Now, you can come back and appeal it, where you would have to have an attorney at your own dime. But you have a very limited amount of time to file that appeal. If not, you're going to be red flagged for a long period of time. But then they can renew the attempt to flag you again before your flag would expire. But although it's civil, meaning you don't get to be presumed innocent beyond any reasonable doubt by a jury of your peers, and you don't get exculpatory evidence, meaning evidence that would be to your benefit. No, you don't get any of that. It's because it's civil. But it's not really civil, though. It's only civil when they want it to be, to screw you over worse. But then when it would help you, they switch it back around, where if you violate any of the provisions of this civil order, then it's criminal. And then there's jail time up to including prison time. If while you're flagged, you were to go out and like buy another gun anyways, or possess a gun or whatever. It's literally somehow like the worst possible thing you could ever concoct, and then throw a cherry on top of that. That insane. Loki, PDX, thanks for the super chat, man. Another one tonight. I appreciate you being so generous. Says, Oregon and Washington both have legislation to further erode the 2A. I'm not surprised on that at all. I know Washington State has a bunch of stuff pending. Maybe not a done deal on all of it, but I know you guys are like going through crazy stuff for all of you that live in Washington. And obviously Oregon have been going through crazy stuff for quite some time here. It's, yeah, crazy. Further erode the 2A and criminalize conservative groups as domestic terrorists. Pacific Northwest is ground zero for the cold Civil War. See, that's like I started off earlier in this stream. Truth is treason in the empire of lies. So let me guess. Somebody who says, I love the Declaration of Independence. I love the Bill of Rights. I love the Constitution. I'm assuming they're trying to write laws that would turn that around on its head. Remember, the federal government would declare us MVEs, right? Militia violent extremists. for having stuff like the American flag and don't tread on me. Total craziness, literally. Thanks for another super chat, dude. I appreciate it, man. Nuts. He just said bingo down there. Loki did. He said bingo, exactly. Unfortunately, I think I know exactly what you're talking about, man. What's happening, Mateo? Mateo says he's back again. What happened, man? Jeez, oh, Pete, somebody picking on Mateo in the chat? Well, I'm glad you're back, dude. What's happening, Laurie DeVries? How you doing? Right there. Oh, boy. I like her avatar. Do you see what it says? When the country was founded, Ben Franklin was asked, remember this, by a woman, as the story goes, what do we have, sir? A republic or a monarchy? He said, a republic if you can keep it. And I love that quote. A republic if you can keep it. What's happening, Reptile guys? Nice to see you, man. I am going to get off of here in just a minute. Is Linda picking on Mateo in the chat? I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat here and see what you guys are up to. Oh, boy. I know that song, too. Hell Hath No Fury. I know that song. Yes, I do. That I'm also not going to try to sing. I'm trying to joke around and have some fun tonight, guys. I know somebody said something earlier like, oh, he didn't get enough sleep. Look, we're talking about some pretty dark topics that suck, but I think need to be talked about because there's obviously like craziness going on. And I don't know, I like to make it a little fun here and there. I don't want everybody just like looking for the nearest cliff or bridge or whatever. It's like, no, there's some bad things going on, but maybe a few things to laugh at here and there. Harry Grimley says, smash the thumbs up, people. Yes, that's definitely a way you can help the channel. Helps what's called the algorithm. Bryce Cohen says, don't move to Colorado. I will tell you guys something interesting, though. If you remember Colorado, when they passed their magazine ban, that's when Magpul moved out of Colorado. And there was an effort put forth by the NAGR, the National Association for Gun Rights. And they actually successfully put out recall petitions and recalled 3 state lawmakers right after that happened. Now, let's fast forward to the year 2023. Great Lakes Gun Rights. I actually talked to their president, the head of that organization, Brendan, on the phone yesterday. He's one of the people I'm going to be seeing when I go to Lansing. We're both there for the same reasons, to fight for the Second Amendment in Michigan. We're going to talk a little bit more of that, but they've been putting up stuff lately talking about their plan to do the same thing in Michigan, which has actually, I don't want to say it worked. I mean, it worked in Colorado, but Colorado was just going so blue, I guess, that even after they recalled them, it just kept spiraling anyways. But this has happened before, and it's an interesting concept. You vote against the Second Amendment, we'll put forth petitions to try to recall you. And they did successfully do that in Colorado a while back. Maybe some of you guys know what I'm talking about. And they're looking to, quite frankly, threaten the same thing right now in Michigan. National Association for Gun Rights. That's the federal arm of them, and just like some of the organizations, it's called Great Lakes Gun Rights in Michigan. And they seem to, as far as I can tell, kind of putting out most of the news and kind of on the forefront of this as far as any of the organizations go in Michigan right now. Gun Owners of America. Not heard as much from them yet. However, I was texting the head of Michigan Gun Owners of America earlier tonight, and I'm going to be talking to him presumably on Sunday. So I will give you guys an update as to what Gun Owners of America is doing as far as the crazy fight that's going on in Michigan right now. I'm taking one quick last look at the chat here, and I'm going to get off because I have quite a bit of stuff to do tomorrow, and if you guys are going to miss me, you won't have to miss me too much, though, because I will be streaming over on Locals tomorrow. I'll get that post up ahead of time so you guys know when it's going to start. It won't be super, super late, but it's going to be late-ish because I was lucky enough to be invited to a daddy-daughter dance with my baby girl. So I'm going to be going to the dance with her, and then I'll be coming back afterwards to do a stream with you guys over on Locals. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out tonight so much. I really appreciate all the generous channel support. Make sure you head over to Locals if you're looking for those Michigan updates as far as when I'm going to Lansing, and you guys can meet up with me, and you're invited to if you want to. And I hope to see you guys over there. And I'm actually going to be showing some cool gun stuff tomorrow. But I can't literally touch guns live, but I'm going to show you guys a couple really cool and hard to find AK magazines. Some ammo that's made in Azerbaijan. I can't even hardly pronounce that country, but that's literally where it's made. So you know you don't want to miss that. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.